Yeah, good morning. Morning, everybody. Who just joined? I didn't see the name on it. Okay, good morning, everybody. We are on Hayam and Base. We are on 5B. We are on 5B2. The Gemara is trying to figure out, we have a law that the size of the wall of a sukkah, good morning, Yaron. Yaron from France. The Gemara says that the size of a sukkah.
How are you?
Good to see you, Yaron. Ariel says hello to you.
Un petit café, frère? Un petit café?
There we go. Thank you. Ouais.
So very good. So we're good to see you, Yaron. So what's the story over here? The story of the Gemara is we
I
know.
can hear you good.
Okay, a sukkah. Maybe Ariel, maybe we gotta make it louder. He says that it's not hearing so well. I think.
Yeah, I can hear you good, Rabbi.
Oh no, now he hears good. Okay. Okay, either way. So the story is that a sukkah has to be 10 tefachim. A sukkah has to be 10 tefachim high. And the Gemara understands, let's say 10 tefachim, minimal size of a sukkah is around 40 inches height. And also, not only the height of the sukkah, but it means the height of the sukkah has to be a minimum of 10 tefachim, and then starts the schach. Then starts the ceiling. That means the schach has a certain thickness to it. Let's say if this would be the schach, right? So if I put schach on, schach has a certain thickness, takes up about the size of this. So, but the halacha is that you need 10 tefachim ear space and then the schach. That means from the ground to the ceiling has to be 10 tefachim, and after you have the ear space of 10 tefachim, then you put the schach. If the schach come lower than 10 tefachim, that means now there's no ear space of 10 tefachim. It's not good. Okay, so we need to have a space, an interior, the inside measurements. So you'll take your ruler, you go from the ground to the schach, 10 tefachim, and then comes the schach. So the Gemara is trying to figure out where do we find a source for this, that a schach, the idea of schach, a covering, has to be the minimum to be called a sukkah. You have to have at least a height of 10 tefachim underneath you in order to be called a sukkah. And if you are covering a space lower than 10 tefachim, you're not a sukkah. You're something else, but you're not a sukkah. The Torah tells us that we need to sit in a sukkah on Sukkot. So it has to be something that's called the sukkah. So that's what the Gemara now is trying to figure out. Where do we find that something that covers 10 tefachim, that's called a sukkah? An amma is around 6 tefachim, which would mean a sukkah is a little more than, the minimum size of a sukkah is a little more than an amma and a half. Amma and a half is 9 tefachim. Sukkah has to be a minimum of 10 tefachim. So that's what we're in the search. And today we're going to finalize the search hopefully today on this piece of Gemara. And then we'll get to another piece, a new Gemara for Monday. So what does the Gemara say? The Gemara says we learn from the Beit HaMikdash. We can learn from the Beit HaMikdash to teach us the proper size for a sukkah. How could you learn from the Beit HaMikdash? The Ksiv, the pasuk says, "V'habayit asher bona hamelech Shlomo laHashem." The house that Shlomo built to Hashem, Shlomo HaMelech built the first Beit HaMikdash, Shishim Ama Orko. The length of the of the house, the Beit HaMikdash, was 60 amot. Could be 60, between 90 and 120 feet. V'habayit, and Esim Rachbo, 20 amot, between 15 and 20 feet long, width, Ushloshim Ama Komoto. And the height was anywhere between 45 and 60 feet high. Good morning, Aaron. These are the dimensions of the Beit HaMikdash. So the height of the Beit HaMikdash was 30 amot high. Okay? Uksiv. Now, in the Beit HaMikdash, there were kruvim. The kruvim are like the cherubs that were in the holy Beit, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, where we have in the Mishkan, the kruvim were on the ark itself, were on the top of the ark, on top of the kaporet. In the Beit HaMikdash, the kruvim were on the floor, standing on the floor of the Mikdash. So the pasuk says, what was the height of the kruvim? Kumat hakruv ha'echad eseh ba'ama, v'chein hakruv ha'sheni. The height of the kruv. Kruv the Gemara here says that the kruv had the images of faces of children. That and the children are in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. That's the Holy of Holies, children. They're in the Holy Holy. They're in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. They're next to the ark, or on top of the ark. Good morning, Mr. Silverman. And with Tanya, we have a bright day that says the following. In the holy Beit HaMikdash, the kruvim b'shlish habayit hein omdim. The kruvim stood. If this would be a kruv, this would be the cherub. It was a third of the height of the Beit HaMikdash. That means you have the height of the Beit HaMikdash was 30 amot. The height of the kruv was 10 amot. And where was the kruv? On the floor, standing on the floor. So if you have something which is 10 amot, standing from the floor 10 amot, and if the ceiling is 30 amot, so therefore the height of the kruv is 1/3 of the height of the Beit HaMikdash. Okay, let's get it clear. We have this kruv, this cherub made out of gold that has a picture of children, and it's two kruvim facing each other. And the height is 10 amot. So it's pretty high, 10 amot, with 15 and 20 feet. And then you have the Beit HaMikdash, the ceiling, which is between 45 and 60 feet. But at the end of the day, the height of the kruv is 10 amot. The height of the Beit HaMikdash is 30 amot. So 10 into 30 is 1/3. So the kruv is 1/3 the height of the Beit HaMikdash. Now, what is that important to us? Because the Gemara says, Mishkan nami kruvim b'shlish habayit hein umdim. In the Mishkan that Moshe Rabbeinu built in the desert, the tabernacle, that Mishkan was also, the kruv also stood at 1/3 of the height of the Mishkan. So it's a very exact point, both in the Beit HaMikdash, right, Aaron, and both in the Mishkan. If you were going to go on look at where was the top of the kruv, when the kruv, the cherub, was 1/3 of the height of the Mishkan. Okay, now let's figure out what was the height of the Mishkan, and then we'll be able to figure out where the kruv exactly stood. Mishkan kamahave. What was the height of the Mishkan? Eseh amot. The height of the Mishkan was 10 amot. 10 amot tall. It says that they had the boards, and each board was how much? Good morning. Each board was 10 amot high. Okay? You have a board of 10 amot. Now the question, like you asked before, how big is an amah? How many tfachim in an amah? So the Gemara is saying you have 6 tfachim in an amah. Esa amot orach hakeres. Kama havilu shitin poshchi. So 10 amot equals 60 tfachim. Now, what is a third of 60? 20. So if we say a third of 60 is 20, so that means that the kruv stood, the top of the kruv, the top of the face of the head of the kruv was 20 tfachim high. Okay. Now, Dal Esara, now you have to take off, you have to do your math, take off 10 tfachim, 10 of the 20 was the Aron, the Kaporet. The Aron itself, we have the Mishkan, you have the ark. Let's say this would be the ark, let's say. And then you have the cover from the ark. And the ark and its cover took up 10 tfachim. That we established, because the Torah says that the ark itself was 1.5 amot, which is 9 tfachim. And with the Gemara proved before that the kaporet, the cover was 1 tefach. So the ark itself was 10 tfachim, including the cover. So if the ark was 10 tfachim, including the cover, and then on top of the ark was the cherub, and the top of the was the kruvim, and the top of the kruvim is 20 tfachim. So that means the top of the kruvim to the bottom, to the ground of the kruv, because the kruv was situated on the ark in the Mishkan. It's like standing right here. Standing right here was the kruv. So if the ark is, if it's standing on an elevation of 10 tfachim, and it stood there, and the top of the kruv was 20 tfachim, so the kruv itself had to be 10, right? If the ark and the kaporet was 10, and the top and the kruv was situated on top of the ark, and on top of the kaporet, the top of the cover, and the top of the kruv was 20 tfachim, so the kruv itself was 10 tfachim. Okay, and now that's going to be very crucial. So we have just proven that the kruvim, the cherubs, which their wings were stretching out, they were covering, if their wings were stretching out, and it was covering over it was like a schach, it covered over the kaporet, over the cover of, it's a make-believe, like where I'm standing now. If this is the cover, this is a covering over on this area, and this area is 10 tfachim, so that means it's a cover over 10 tfachim. So therefore the Gemara says that proves that, and the Torah refers to it as a schach, that this is called a covering. So we see that this is called, what is it covering? Covering this space, the space between the cover of the ark and the top of the kruv. So we see that 10, and what's the size? And there's the hollow space, there's an area, an empty space of 10 tvachim between the cover and the kruv, and the cover and the wings. So we see that 10 tvachim is called a space of a sukkah. That's going to be the Gemara is going to suggest that at the moment. Partially asara, uksiv, and the pasuk says, "V'hayu hakruvim parsei kenafayim l'mayla." The kruvim spread their wings above. Suchachim b'chanfeihem. They created a cover with their wings al kaporet. It was a cover over the kaporet. It was covering the kaporet, covering the cover of the aron. The Torah calls this extension of the wings of the kruvim as a covering, and it's covered an area of 10 tvachim, because we just established there was a space of 10 tvachim from the top of the aron to the kruvim. So Now the Gemara's understanding at this point is the following: that if this would be the end of the face of the kruv of the cherub, the wings came right above the head of the kruvim. So the Gemara says, okay, so that's what the Gemara wants to bring as a proof that we have a sukkah is 10 tvachim. Okay, the Gemara challenges it right now. The Gemara says, how do you know that the wings that the kruvim had came right above the head, right? You see me in the picture here, right? If we know if this is the end of the kruv right here, and this empty space of 10 tvachim, and if the wings came out right above that, coming like this, okay, it's proving it's covering 10 tvachim. But what about maybe the wings came from not above the head? Maybe the wings came on the top of the head in line with the top of the kruv. And therefore, if it came this way, it's only at this point that it's 10 tvachim underneath. But at this point, if you count, if the wing came out right this way, then the wing took up some of the space, and therefore you don't have a empty space underneath of 10 tvachim. Like, I don't know if you have a picture. So that is the Gemara's question. How do you know that the wings came above, on top of the head of the kruvim? Maybe it came, the Gemara says, maybe the wings were spread exactly equal to the, good morning, equal to the head, and therefore even the thicknesses of the wings were part of that space, and therefore you don't have an empty space of 10 tvachim. The pasuk says that the kruvim were spreading their wings above. So if it's above, the Gemara says, so it's not on equal part on the face of the kruv. It's not on the face of the cherub. It's on top. It's above the head of the cherub. So the Gemara says, if that's the case, Ema de midli tuva. Maybe the kruvim, that's called a ceiling, that's called the schach, that's called the cover. Maybe it was coming out higher. The wings were going maybe the wings were going higher, and therefore it was covering a larger space than 10 tvachim. If the wings would go like this. So the Gemara says, the miksiv l'mayla l'mayla. Does the pasuk say that it went l'mayla l'mayla? God bless you. Does the pasuk say that it was high and high, double high? God bless you. It only says it was above. So above means exactly above the kruvim. Okay. Now, by the way, there's a nice picture, and this, my thing has a nice picture. You see this picture? Here's the head of the cherub. Right at top of the head comes the wings come right at top of the head. You want to go see the picture? You see the picture here? Okay, at least it's not an art school Gemara. Maybe the art school Gemara has a nice picture.
It's like a talet, Rabbi, like a talet under a chuppah.
Right. You see the picture, Eric? Good morning, Emmanuel. Here's the top of the head of the kruvim, and then comes the wings. And we said the space from here, this is the ark. This is the cover of the ark. This is the aron. This is called the kaporet. And then this is from here, this space, till the top of the head is 10 tvachim. And then this is a cover. This is the cover for this 10 tvachim. So that's a show we see. That's called the sukkah. Okay? Beautiful picture, everybody. It's in the night, and the Mesifta Gemara has a beautiful picture. So the Gemara says, okay, but Hanicha, this would only work Rameya. Rameya says, Call Ha'amod Hoyun Beinanet. we said before that how much was the size of an amah? An amah was 6 tefachim. Now, that Rameh says an amah is 6 tefachim, both when you're talking about the boards, the curtains, and both the utensils. The things that are in the building process, when you build a building, there's the building, there's the structure of the building, and then the things that make up the building, and then there's the things that you place, the furniture that you're furnishing in the building. So Rameh says both the building itself, the walls, the curtains, the boards, when we say an amah, it's 6 tefachim. So according to him, then that he says all the amos of Beinanot are 6 tefachim, because there's certain amah, there's certain amot that are higher than 6 tefachim. Certain amah is less than 6 tefachim. And he says, but the Mishkan, when we say amah, it's in the middle, not more than 6 tefachim. An amah is not less than 6 tefachim. It's 6 tefachim. Then everything is good. But Ela Rabbi Yehuda the amah. Rabbi Yehuda says there's a distinction between the amah of the binyan and the amah of kelim. He says when we talk about the measurements of the building, the boards, he says that amah, when we say amah over there, it's 6 tefachim. But when you say kelim, when you say the utensil, when you describe the utensils, you say that the aron, which is one of the utensils that were in the Mishkan, the aron was 1.5 high. He says, Michael and Meima, he says that which are kelim is 5 tefachim. He says that's 5 tefachim, not 6, Michael and Meima. Then we're going to have trouble. We have a problem. What's the problem? The Gemara is going to explain the following. Aron the kaporet. The aron and the kaporet, how high was the aron and the kaporet? Until now, we said it was 10 tefachim high. Because we said, the Torah says, Amma v'chetzi, komoto, 1.5, and we said an Amma is 6 tefachim. So 1.5 times 6 is how much? 9. And then we said that the cover was 1 tefach, that made it 10. But if you say that 1.5 tefachim, 1.5 amot is an amma is 5 tefachim, so what's the math, Ariel? 1.5 times 5 is 7.5. So therefore, it would be 7.5 tefachim would be, right, Mr. Silverman, would mean the height of the aron, plus a tefach for the cover makes it how much? 8.5. So it come out in our picture, right? What will come out? That the top of the aron would be 8.5 tefachim, correct? And then, but the wings came out at 20 tefachim. So the wings were covering a space of 11.5 tefachim, according to that. So the Gemara says, so therefore a sukkah should be, you have to have a minimum of 11.5 tefachim. If an amma is 5 tefachim, so then it comes out that the wings were covering a space of 11, because 7.5 was the height of the aron. The kaporet height of the kaporet was 1 tefach, was 8.5. So it was total from the bottom to the top was 8.5 tefachim, and then you had the wings at 20, because we said before that the wings were 1/3 of the height of 1/3 of the height, 1/3 of the height of the building. And the building was what we said was 60 tefachim, because it was right, because the building was 10 amot high, and the building's amma is 6 tefachim. So the Gemara says, so then the top was a total of 8.5 tefachim, the bottom of the floor to the top of the aron. Therefore, you're left with the space of 11.5 tefachim, that the wings are covering a space now of 11.5 tefachim. You should say a sukkah has to have a minimum empty space of 11.5. So the Gemara says, thank you, Mr. Silverman, for the pasuk. So the Gemara says, Ela Rabbi Yehuda, the Gemara says, it's a halacha Moshe Misinai. This idea that how do you know that a wall has to be 10 tefachim, and that the empty space of the sukkah have to be 10 tefachim, that the size of the wall has to be 10 tefachim minimum, and then you have the schach on top of the 10 tefachim. That's a halacha Moshe Sinai. Many things were not written openly in the Torah. Many things you could not figure out directly in the Torah. That's why Hashem told Moshe an oral Torah, and Hashem told Moshe halacha Moshe Sinai that you have to that is the size, proper size of a sukkah. We'll be back Monday, which we encourage everyone to be back on Monday. Michael, Mr. Silverman, we're looking.
Thank you, Rabbi.
We want people to recruit. I'm giving you homework to
Okay,
recruit.
okay. Is that Hashem, Rabbi?
Okay, and
Rabbi,
Mr. Silverman,
read that Amah, Rabbi. It tells you, Hashem says, I'll set my places with you between the cherubim. That's where I'll speak with you atop it.
Beautiful. That's where the Shekhinah, highest level, that's where the highest level of the Shekhinah was. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Shabbat shalom, Rabbi.
Mr. Silverman, if you want to text me your number, I want to make sure I have your number. I'll give you my number.
Okay. Go ahead. I have my pen here.
My number is 347.
Okay.
347-831-0316. Take it, Aaron.
Okay, Rabbi, have a great Shabbat Shalom.
Great, you too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thanks for a beautiful week.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.